Terranova for having joined us. Our next guest will be wintering in South Florida, and he will start his assault on South Florida stakes action later this afternoon as he sends out Summer Patriot, who won the John's Call here last summer at Saratoga in this afternoon's McKnight. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us live via telephone, Mr. Barclay Tagg. Barclay, Mark, and Mike welcoming you back to Down the Stretch.
Hi, Mark and Mike. Thank you.
Hi, Barclay.
Thanks, Barclay. Dan, we're having a little problem hearing Barclay in our ear. Barclay, let's hope everything is okay from a technical standpoint. Barclay, you scratched, let's talk Summer Patriot. You scratched him from the Red Smith recently. Why was that?
Well, the ground was very soft that day, and the lady that owned him was just a little timid about running him in there, and we just got together and decided we'd not run him. Yeah.
Barclay, he had run a distant third after making a really bold move in the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic the end of September over a very soft course. Abar Koa rode him that day, as he has several times. Did he come back and tell you that he struggled with the surface that day? Yeah,
he thought he struggled with the surface some there. It was a little too soft. I don't think he likes real soft, but I think he likes a little cut in the ground, you know.
Barclay, our audience is about to watch his impressive last-to-first victory in the John's Call here at Saratoga. As we pick it up, he'll be second to last on the screen on the outside. You really liked your horse this day, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was very confident in him that day. I thought he'd love the distance. I thought he'd like the turf. It was good. It wasn't, I didn't think it was too soft. I just felt really good about him that day.
I mean, you know, it got to the point that you said to me, you know, I don't mean to sound like Rick Dutrow, but I don't think they could possibly beat him this day. I don't know if I've ever heard you that confident.
No, I'm not usually that confident, but I was that day.
Barclay, the start prior to the John's Call, Summer Patriot attended a rather conservative pace and went on to a handy victory. Then here in the John's Call, as we're moving into the far turn the second time, he makes this tremendous sweeping move to the lead to go on and win for fun. I mean, there aren't a lot of horses who can show that they can attend a pace one race and then come from so far back another race. I mean, does that just show his versatility?
Well, I think he's got a lot of versatility, but I also think that I just think the John's Call came up just right for him. He was right that day, and I think the distance was right. The competition, I didn't think was even as tough as the allowance race was, even though it was only an A other than. But he just, I was just really confident in him on John's Call day. The other race, he was able to attend the pace a bit. You know, they went pretty slow, and it just worked out good for him that way. I mean, I think he's versatile enough to take advantage of some idiosyncrasies in the track and things like that, you know. So.
Now, Barclay, he hasn't run in a little more than 2.5 months. You got to go 1.5 miles this afternoon. How confident are you for the McKnight?
Well, that concerns me a bit. I don't usually worry about time like that if I've been able to get everything in them I want. But the Belmont track was rather deep and cuppy a lot, and it's a pretty sandy track, and he doesn't really care for the Belmont track to train on. And I worked him several half miles there rather than longer distances because he seemed to struggle with it when I had to work him. And you just can't get on the turf whenever you want to up there. So it put me in a little bit of a spot in preparing him, but he did get some good works under his belt, and I think he'll run well. I just wasn't able to get the training in him that I really felt that I would have liked to have gotten in him. But like I say, I shortened up his work some because he had to work so hard at them on that cuppy track those few days. Anyway, I think he got enough out of it. Hopefully he did, and we'll just have to see.
Barclay, how is the weather in South Florida today? What are you expecting turf-wise at Calder?
Well, they were calling for rain on Thursday and Friday, which we didn't get. We got a downpour of about 15 minutes, I think, on Thursday, and then it was cloudy all day Friday, but didn't rain anymore here. And today's just a beautiful day. It's cold and windy, but it's beautiful. So I imagine the turf ought to have a little cut in it, but I don't think it'll be much, and I don't know. I don't think he likes a real hard turf course, but we'll just have to see.
All right.
They can't carry everything around with them. They have to go out there and compete.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'll be talking to Barclay in a few moments about an outstanding 2-year-old that he has, but for right now, a discussion about his Cigar Mile winner. Here's Michael.
Hi, Barclay. Good to talk with you again.
Hi, Michael.
Congratulations on the Cigar Mile with Tale of a Cotty, and you completed his 3-year-old season with back-to-back wins in the Jerome and the Cigar, both one-turn miles in New York, and that certainly confirmed your suspicions. That's his game. As we're speaking, our audience is looking at him here, number 5, making his rally from 4th place. Barclay, with such a good race record in New York, and not too many of these type races on the landscape, what are your general thoughts about Tale of a Cotty's 4-year-old season?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I'd prefer to run him in things like the Met Mile, some of those, and maybe if we have to stretch him out a little bit, we will. I'd prefer to keep him close to a mile. I mean, everybody kept telling me I was crazy to run him in derbies and things like that, but he did win a Grade 1 at a mile and an eighth early in the year, and he was 4th in the Kentucky Derby, so it wasn't like it was an outlandish thing to do. You know, when there are only 3 once, and if they've got ability and they can beat the other horses that are kind of doing the same thing they are, wondering where they fit, why they deserve a shot at the Derby or something like that. You know, even the Belmont Stakes, you never know how the pace is going to work out or who might show up in something like that. And they're young horses. Then they mature at different stages. You know, some of them will mature in 3 or 4 weeks, a lot further than they were before. And you just never know how they're going to show up those days. And in the early spring of their 3-year-old year like that, you just don't know what you've got really. And I think if they've shown the ability to run, that they deserve some. You know, you've got to give them a shot at some of those big races. There's 3 classic races there, and you don't want to miss them all if you don't have to. Yeah. So even though we felt that he was a miler all along, like I say, he didn't run badly in the Derby, and he did win the Wood Memorial. So you know, put a good feather in his cap there.
Yeah.
If we have to go back to a mile and an eighth sometime, well, I would probably do that. I'll just have to see. But I'd like to get him in a prep race somewhere here in Florida later on, and then go in the Met Mile, and then see where we go from there. We'll play around with it a little bit, see how he's doing and how he likes it and that kind of thing. That would be my plan. I think Mr. 50 would like to go to Dubai with him, which we might have to do that too. I don't know. You know, I don't have strong feelings about it one way or another, but it is Mr. 50's horse, and if that's what he wants to do, that's what we'll have to do. So.
Gosh, I really enjoyed hearing you give that analysis about training a horse at 3. This may be a hard question for you to answer. I really think he's a gifted horse, and I still remember, I go all the way back to that gutsy inside move in the Belmont Futurity. That's one of those things that stands in my mind. But my question is, as you look back, I mean, were there times you were frustrated or, you know, or no?
I've been frustrated with this game my whole life.
Well, it's not that I didn't expect that, Barclay. Well, listen, Barclay, good to talk with you. Here's Mark for another set of questions for you.
Okay.
Barclay, before we let you go, let's get an update for our audience on your fine 2-year-old Hello Broadway. He was forced to miss the Remsen. Refresh our minds. Why was that?
Well, he got a temperature about a week before, and I was not really counting on that because I'd seen where they changed some of the races around down here. And I would have preferred to have like a mile to start him back in here, and then a mile and an eighth, and then the mile and an eighth Florida Derby, or if not that, I'd go to the Wood Memorial as a backup. But we decided then, since he was running well but hadn't really put much money behind his name in graded stakes, that we'd go ahead and run him in the Remsen if he was doing well, and he was. He was coming up to the Remsen very, very well. And that's always nice if you can win that around 2 turns. It's kind of the identical race that the Wood Memorial is. So in the spring, you know. So anyway, we were coming up to that, and all of a sudden he just got struck with a temperature, some kind of virus or something. We thought we knocked it right out in 24 hours and we could go on with him, but then all of a sudden it knocked back on him again, and it took us another 24 hours. So we opted just not to push things too hard. So now we'll try and find an A and a B plan for him to get him ready for the Derby or the Classic Trail anyway. So.
With the change, and I'm not familiar with all the changes Gulfstream has made with the stakes racing and the calendar, is there anything penciled in for him to start his 3-year-old campaign at present?
Well, I'll probably go in the 7 furlong race on the end of January, and then they've made the Fountain of Youth a mile at the end of February, and then the Florida Derby is the end of March. And, you know, they're all 4 weeks apart, and they start out short and get gradually longer. I just didn't want to go back to 7 furlongs with him particularly, but although I think he can run well at that distance, and that's probably what I'll do, rather than have I think maybe the Holy Bull or one of those races is a 1 1/8 early on, but I didn't want to bounce him right into a 1 1/8 and then go into the mile Fountain of Youth, then come back in a 1 1/8 in the Derby. I'd rather progress to it. So right now, my A plan would be the end of January, the end of March, or the end of February and the end of March. Those 3 races at 7 furlongs, a mile, and a 1 1/8. So that's my A plan. If that gets changed around, why they have made the 2 Tampa Bay horses, they're both graded now. They're only grade 3s, but they did get them both graded, the Sam Davis and the Tampa Bay Derby. So they're right there in the mix, too. As long as they're graded stakes, we can make money with them, you know, hopefully. So we'll just have to see. It's all a little up in the air. And I love the Wood Memorial, too. We've been able to win it twice, so I'd love to win it again. And, you know, that's always there, too. If I ran the first 3 races that were all 4 weeks apart, I would probably skip the Wood and go to the Derby 5 weeks later, because, you know, then you're going into a big grind with the Triple Crown races. They're all close together, and it's a pretty big grind. So it'd be nice to have the 3 races and then give them a 5-week change, and then go into the Triple Crown races. If something happens in between, why, we can always go into Wood Memorial and then the Derby. So there's a couple ways to approach it.
Barclay, as always, we appreciate your time. Thank you so very much for having joined us this morning on Down the Stretch. Happy holidays. Have a great winter season in Florida. Good luck with Summer Patriot and this afternoon's McKnight, and I know we'll be speaking with you again very soon.
Well, thank you very much.